Emeka's hands were shaking. Not from cold. Not from hunger. From what he was holding. 50 million naira. In a bag. Behind a generator. In the rain. He didn't move. He didn't breathe. He just stood there, water dripping down his face, staring at more money than he had ever seen in his entire life. And his first thought wasn't, I'm rich. His first thought was, somebody is coming back for this. But we get to that. Because before the bag, before the money, before everything fell apart and came back together in the most unexpected way, there were 5 people. 5 strangers. 5 broken dreams. All crammed into one room in Surulere, Lagos. And not one of them had any idea that their lives were about to change forever. If you've ever left everything behind just to chase something better, stay with me. Because this story is for you. Chike was the first to arrive. 24 years old. A beat on his phone. A dream in his chest. And exactly 3,000 naira in his pocket when he stepped off that bus from Enugu. He told himself Lagos was going to bow to him. Lagos didn't even notice him. He spent the first 3 days sleeping on a bench outside a studio in Ikeja, telling himself it was temporary. That the producer he'd come to meet would hear his beats and sign him immediately. That this time next month, he'd be sending money home. The producer never replied to his messages. By day 4, Chike was eating once a day, a sachet of biscuit and a bottle of cold water, and telling anyone who asked that he was in talks. He wasn't in talks. He was in trouble. Tari arrived the same week. Computer science graduate. First class. 3 years of job applications. 12 rejections in Lagos alone. He came anyway because his mother had sold a piece of land to fund his big move to the city, and he couldn't go back home and look her in the eye with nothing to show. So he sat in a cafe in Yoba every day, nursing 1 cup of Milo for 3 hours, applying for jobs on a laptop with a cracked screen held together by a rubber band. Blessing came from ABA with 3 suitcases full of fabric, a sewing machine on her head, and a dream of launching a fashion brand. She had 200 followers on Instagram. 0 orders. She told herself the city just needed to discover her. The city was busy. Sade didn't come for money. She came looking for her brother, Femi, who had called her 4 months ago and said, Sade, I found something. Something big. I'll explain everything when I see you. And then never called again. His number went off. His landlord said he packed and left in the middle of the night. No note. No goodbye. Sade had 1 photo of him. She was putting it on every pole and wall she could find. And then there was Emeka. Emeka came to Lagos running. There was a man in Asaba, a big man, the kind of man you borrowed money from when you were desperate and promised to pay back in 2 months. Emeka had borrowed. He had not paid back. And the big man had stopped sending polite messages. So Emeka ran. To the biggest, loudest, most anonymous city in the country. Because in Lagos, you could disappear. You could reinvent yourself. You could become somebody before anybody found you. Or so he thought. They found the room through a chain of coincidences too long to explain, a compound in Surulere, a landlord who didn't ask too many questions, and a rent so cheap it should have been a warning. 1 room. 5 people. 2 mattresses on the floor. A ceiling fan that worked on Tuesdays. This was their Lagos. The first 2 weeks were loud. Everyone was still hopeful. Still performing confidence. Still saying, I have a lead and something is about to happen. But by week 3, the room got quiet in a different way. Chike stopped talking about the producer. He started doing delivery runs on a bike to pay his share of the rent, riding through traffic at midnight with his headphones in, listening to beats he couldn't afford to record. Tari got a call back for a job, entry level, half of what he deserved, and spent 3 days preparing for the interview. He wore his 1 good shirt. He ironed it with a pot of hot water because they had no iron. They gave the job to someone else. Blessing started selling rice and stew from the compound in the mornings just to cover feeding. She told herself it was temporary income. But every morning, she woke up at 4 to cook, and every night, she fell asleep over her sewing machine, and slowly, quietly, the sewing machine started gathering dust. Sade kept searching. She walked streets. She visited police stations where officers looked at her like she was wasting their time. She called numbers that rang out. She stood outside offices of people who knew people who might know something, and she waited. Nothing. And Emeka was the one who kept the room together. He would buy food when there was money. He would crack a joke when the silence got too heavy. He was running from something, yes, but somehow he had decided that these 4 strangers were worth staying for. One Tuesday evening in the 3rd week, it rained hard. Everyone was home. No electricity. A single candle on the floor. Nobody was talking. Chike was staring at the ceiling. Tari had his laptop open but wasn't typing. Blessing was crying softly in the corner and hoping no one could hear. Sade was sitting by the window, watching the rain like it owed her an answer. Emeka stood up to take out the trash. That was the moment everything changed. He almost didn't see it. It was wedged behind the old generator at the back of the compound, covered halfway by a piece of tarpaulin that the rain had shifted. A black duffel bag. Zip tight. Heavy. Emeka looked left. Looked right. The compound was empty. The rain was loud. He crouched down and pulled it open. And the word stopped. Bundled notes. Fresh, rubber-banded, tightly packed. More than he had ever seen. More than he could count standing in the rain with water in his eyes. His heart didn't race. It froze. He didn't scream. He didn't run. He picked up the bag, walked slowly back into the room, and set it on the floor without saying a single word. Everyone looked up. Emeka unzipped it. The candle flickered. Silence. Then Blessing whispered, "Emeka. What is that?" It wasn't a question. "I don't know," he said. "I found it outside." Chike leaned forward slowly. Tari closed his laptop. Sade turned from the window. They all stared at it for a long, long moment. Then Chike said, very quietly, "How much is that?" Nobody answered. Nobody wanted to be the first one to say it out loud, like saying it would make it real, like making it real would mean they had to make a decision. Tari was the one who reached in, not for the money, but for the small object taped to the inside lining of the bag. A USB drive. And beneath it, folded once, a torn piece of paper. He opened it. 3 words and a name. Return to Alhaji Musa Danfulani. The room got very, very quiet. And if you don't know that name, in the next 60 seconds, you'll understand exactly why every single person in that room stopped breathing when they read it. Don't go anywhere. Tari plugged the drive into his laptop. Nobody spoke. The fan from the laptop was the only sound in the room. That and the rain. And the distant sound of a generator somewhere down the street humming like it had no idea what was happening inside that small room. The drive opened. Folders. Dozens of them. Documents. Spreadsheets. Voice recordings. Photos. Tari clicked the first folder. It was a government contract. Roads. Northern Nigeria. Worth 11 billion naira. Awarded to a company that, according to the documents, did not exist. He clicked another folder. Another contract. A hospital. 8 billion. Same ghost company. Another. A school. 5 billion. Tari leaned back slowly and said, "This is not just money." Chike said, "What do you mean?" "I mean whoever owns this bag, this is evidence. This is proof. This man has been stealing from the government for years. Billions. And it's all here. Names. Account numbers. Everything." Blessing stood up. "So we are sitting in a room with 50 million naira that belongs to a man who steals billions from the government." Nobody answered. "I need someone to tell me we are not that unlucky," she said. Emeka laughed. But it wasn't a funny laugh. It was the kind of laugh that comes out when your body doesn't know what else to do. Then Sade spoke. And what she said, nobody in that room was ready for it. She said, Danfulani. Her voice was so flat, so quiet, that everyone turned to look at her. I've seen that name before, she said. Femi sent it to me. My brother. 3 weeks before he disappeared. He sent me a voice note saying he had stumbled onto something at work. He was doing data entry for a government contractor, and he said one name kept appearing in documents that didn't make sense. Danfulani. She looked at the torn piece of paper still lying on the floor. He said he was going to report it. He said he was going to find someone to take the evidence to. She paused. That was the last time I heard his voice. The candle flickered. Nobody moved. Blessing whispered, Sade. He didn't disappear, Sade said. He was silenced. And just like that, this stopped being a story about money. If you're still watching, good. Because what happens next is the part nobody saw coming. Not even them. The argument started slowly and then all at once. Blessing was the first to say what everyone was thinking. We take the money. We split it 5 ways. We leave Lagos tonight and we never speak of this again. Chike nodded. She's right. This is not our problem. We didn't steal anything. We didn't do anything wrong. We found a bag. We can just. And Sade's brother. Tari said. Silence. What about every person whose hospital was never built? Whose road was never fixed? Whose children are in schools with no roofs? Tari's voice was shaking now, not from fear, from something deeper. We have the evidence right here. Right now. We can actually do something. Emeka stood up and walked to the window. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, You know what's funny? I came to this city running from a man who thought he owned me because I owed him money. I told myself, once I get out, once I get far enough, I'll never let another powerful man make me feel small again. He turned around. And now you're asking me to run again. Blessing looked at him. Emeka, this is not the same. It is exactly the same, Blessing. The only difference is the zeros. Another silence. Longer this time. Then Sade said, and this was the line that broke the room open, she said, I'm not asking any of you to risk your lives. I'm not asking you to be heroes. I just need to know if my brother is alive. That's all I came to this city for. That's the only thing I want. Her voice didn't break. She didn't cry. That was somehow worse. Chike looked at the floor. Then he looked at the bag. Then he looked at Sade. And he said, Okay. What's the plan? They had been talking for 40 minutes when they heard it. A car. Pulling up slowly outside the compound. Engine running but not moving. Emeka went to the window and looked through the curtain. Black SUV. Tinted windows. 2 men standing outside it, talking to the compound gateman. They're here, he said. Quietly. The way you say something when panic hasn't arrived yet but is standing right outside the door. Blessing grabbed the bag and shoved it under the mattress. Tari yanked the USB from the laptop and closed everything. Sade blew out the candle. They sat in the dark. Still. Breathing through their mouths. They could hear the gateman's voice. No strangers here, oh. Just tenants. One of the men said something they couldn't make out. The gateman laughed nervously. No bag. I've been here since morning. Nothing like that. A long pause. Then the sound of the car door. The engine. The SUV pulling away slowly. Nobody moved for a full minute after the sound disappeared. Then Blessing said, in a voice barely above a whisper, we have maybe 2 hours before they come back with more people. Then we move now, Tari said. Tari worked fast. He copied every file from the USB onto 3 different cloud accounts, 2 email drafts saved but not sent, and one folder buried inside a dummy account with a name that meant nothing to anyone. If anything happens to the drive, he said, the files still exist. They can't erase it. Sade made a call. A journalist, a woman her brother had mentioned once, someone he trusted, someone who had been trying to expose government corruption for years and had the scars to prove it. Sade had found her number weeks ago while searching for any trace of Femi. She had never called. Until now. The journalist picked up on the second ring. Sade said, "My name is Sade. My brother is Femi Adelik. I think you know why I'm calling." A pause on the other end. "Then, where are you?" Chike took the empty bag. They had moved the money into 2 separate nylon bags, and drove it on a bike to a street 3 kilometers away and left it near a bus stop where the CCTV cameras had been broken for months. A decoy. To buy time. And Emeka, the man who came to Lagos running from one powerful man, drove the car that carried the USB drive to the journalist's contact point. Alone. In the rain. With his hand steady on the wheel. Blessing was the one who made the anonymous call to the EFCC tip line. She read out names, account numbers, contract figures, calmly, clearly, like she was reading a shopping list. Then she hung up. Put the phone in a nylon bag and dropped it in a drainage ditch on the way back. 5 people who came to the city with nothing. And in one night, they did more damage to one powerful man than his enemies had managed in 20 years. The news broke at 6 in the morning. Tari was the first one awake. He saw the notification on his phone and sat up so fast he hit his head on the ceiling fan. He shook Chike. Chike shook Emeka. Emeka woke Blessing. They all gathered around the small phone screen, sitting on the floor of that same room, reading the headline together. EFCC moves on Danfulani. Assets frozen. Arrest imminent. Nobody screamed. Nobody jumped. They just sat there reading it over and over again like they needed to be sure it was real. Blessing started laughing first. The kind of laugh that starts in your belly and comes out sideways. Then Chike. Then Tari. Emeka just sat there smiling quietly with his eyes wet and his jaw tight. And Sade. Sade's phone rang. Unknown number. She looked at it for a moment. Then she picked up. A voice said, hoarse, tired, like someone who hadn't slept in weeks, Sade. She stopped breathing. "It's me," the voice said. "It's Femi. I'm okay. I'm okay." She walked to the corner of the room and faced the wall. And for the first time in the entire story, Sade cried. Not from fear. Not from exhaustion. From relief. Pure, flooding, overwhelming relief. The rest of them pretended not to hear. But every single one of them had tears running down their face. Here is what happened after. Chike released a song about the city 6 weeks later. It went viral in 3 days. The producer who never replied to his messages sent a contract 1 month after that. Tari was contacted by a government anti-corruption agency to help build their document verification system. He said yes before they finished the sentence. Blessing's brand blew up when a journalist, not the one Sade called, a different one, wrote a small piece about the woman from Surale who helped crack the Danfulani case. She never confirmed it. But her Instagram went from 200 followers to 80,000 in a week. Emeka called home. Told his mother he was okay. Then he called the man in Asaba, the one he owed money, and paid him back every kobo. He said it felt better than he expected. And Sade brought her brother back to Lagos. Got him a room in the same compound. Same leaking ceiling. Same Tuesday fan. He said it was the most beautiful room he had ever seen. They came to this city to hustle. To survive. To become somebody. But Lagos gave them something bigger than success. It gave them each other. And one night, one bag, one impossible choice, reminded them that the most powerful thing in any city is not money. It is people who refuse to be afraid. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And if you're new here, subscribe, because we tell stories that stay with you long after the video ends. Until next time. Stay hungry. Stay human.